Hi, everyone. This is CricketSong with Lunar Wisdom, and you're watching another episode of Wyrds, Witches, Witchcraft. This week, we're going to be talking about the craft of spell construction. And I'm here with my usual co-host, Obsidian Fire. Say hello.
Hey, bonjour tout le monde, j'espère que vous allez bien, mieux que moi qui, comme d'habitude, suis complètement endormie. J'espère que cette conversation vous plaira et n'hésitez pas à participer.
Yay! We're here today. We both are sort of tired and emotionally dealing with stuff, so bear with us.
Yeah, well
Right?
said.
Right? I mean, yes. So we're going to do our best to focus on the topic at hand. So we're talking about the craft of constructing spells. Mm-hmm. And when Obsidian and I were throwing this idea back and forth, what we mean by the constructing spells. We talked about words, chanting, and all of that in a previous episode. So now, once you have your intention figured out, and maybe you've created an incantation that you're going to say, now it's about bringing everything else together and deciding what you are actually going to do, the actions and maybe the correspondences that you're going to use. So how do you, Obsidian, what's your next step? What's the next step for you?
Well, it depends. Obviously it depends on what kind of spell I've decided to cast. I won't be prepared the same way if I decide to do, let's say, I don't know, candle magic, or if I decide to do a charm bag, or so each way gonna be different. But
so how do you come about what the way you're going to do it? How do you decide whether you're going to do candle magic or a charm bag, or how do you figure that out?
On the time I have.
Okay.
Because if I have to be fast, if I don't have many time to act, I will certainly go for something more quicker to prepare, like candle magic, or a tiny charm bag, or something like this. But if I have more time to decide and to act, then I will go for what seems to me at the moment more appropriate for my goal. If it is something like, I don't know, baleful magic, if it is something like this, if I have someone or something to, let's say, to handle, which is difficult, I will probably go for a spell bottle, which requires a bit more of time. If I travel and if I need protection, I will go for a charm bag that I will keep with me, and so on. And you?
Yeah, it depends, like you said, about the time that I have to prepare. I always have candles on hand. So for me too, it's easy enough to do candle magic if necessary, because it's something that's very easy, to gather the ingredients. Yeah. But if it's something that I plan on doing, or if it's a long-term spell, like it's a spell I plan to do over a period of time, because maybe I feel like it needs that, it may have different steps, and one day may be a candle magic, and then the next day I may add, a charm bag to the candle magic, and then add some sort of action after that. So it really depends on the time that I want to take to cast the spell, and like you said, the amount of time that you have for spell preparation. When you have when you're like, okay, next full moon, I'm going to do this spell, then you have you could have weeks to prepare for that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. And of course, when we have plenty of time, we can come with a more elaborate spell. if we feel like it, because I don't always feel like I want to do more high magic, or I don't always feel like this. And sometimes, even if I'm planning to do something in months later, I will still go for a candle magic.
Yeah.
It depends.
I was
And
just
then,
thinking, oh, go
mhm.
ahead.
No, you.
I was just thinking that sometimes if it's a spell that I want to do for myself, for me,
Mhm.
like if it's something that I feel like maybe it's a quality within me that I want to um,
Bring out.
bring out more, yeah. Like if and I was just thinking, like sometimes I brew like teas to drink,
Mhm.
and there was this one spell that I did with a few other people. We did it together, and we actually brewed our own little tea in our own little teacup because we want to bring out self-confidence for each of us, and we did it
Mhm.
together in a circle. So brewing that tea and imbuing the tea with qualities, in chanting that tea or charging the tea with the quality of self-confidence, and then drinking it in. So actions like that made, like, it seemed to make sense. It was more intuitive.
Mhm.
When I
Mhm.
drink this, I bring it in me so it will radiate from me. Um, so I think when it's dealing with me personally, a tea, or even sometimes working with a mirror, working with myself in a mirror to do something, is more, it's definitely more personal, but I think the actions are like, they're different than if I'm doing something for someone else, or if I'm going to baneful magic on banishing someone else. Those actions are going to be very different, and the
Yeah,
preparation is going to be different.
yeah, obviously. Like for someone else, and in case of not specifically based on magic, but let's say, then we might have to collect the little thingy to put into the, and
Mm-hmm.
that take time too. So yeah, it depends. And then comes the choice of elements. I mean, what we gonna use, and that is totally a part of the, of course, constructing the spell. What herbs do we gonna use? What crystal, if you use that? What other type of what do you say? Sorry,
Like
I'm sorry.
items. Like if you're going to make a spell
Items.
bottle,
Thank you.
like if you're
Thank
going to make a
you.
spell bottle, you may want to put herbs in there, but you might want other items. Like on my channel, I have a whole little playlist of spell bottles that I made for the benefit of others, and I gave them
Mm-hmm.
as gifts to everyone. So sometimes putting other items other than just herbs and crystals in it to signify specific things, you
So
want to
okay.
take time to collect all that stuff.
Yeah. I've used, for example, for a charm bag for myself, I've used clothes or clove, you know,
Hmm.
of my familiar. I've put it in it, in it to have his strength and his ability of cheering up things. And see, so there is plenty of things you can do. There is a question in the chat. Did you see?
I did. They just, yeah, asked it. Yeah. Can you give an example of a type of spell work you feel is more effective for candle spell work?
Well, it depends on you. It depends on each of us, I think. If you, at the moment, you feel like candle magic gonna be totally appropriate for what you are pursuing, so do it. Me, I tend to go to fire very often because this is an element I have easy connection with. But maybe it's not your case. Maybe for you, gonna be something else. But if at one point you feel like a candle gonna be enough and gonna be appropriate, then you go for it. And that could be for absolutely anything. Banishment, love, anything. That's the good thing with candles. Just a bit of essential oil, a candle in the right color, and basically you can be good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think, what I would suggest is, if you have an intention, for example, money, maybe you need to attract more money. Maybe, you have something that you want to save for, or you're planning to take a trip somewhere and you want some pocket cash to go, or you need an, you have company coming, you need to buy extra groceries that week, or whatever it is. Maybe you need some extra money. So, if you sit down and you say, okay, what does money mean for me? What is the things I associate with money? What colors do I associate with money? I generally go for more traditional correspondences, but when I'm looking at traditional correspondences, if there's a correspondence that just doesn't make sense for me, then I'll pick something else, if it just doesn't make sense. But I mean, when I think of, money, I think of gold and green, and I think of uh, bountiful things, coins, bills, like dollar bills, American money, foreign
Mhm.
money, sometimes too, any kind of money, piggy banks. I think of money when I see a piggy bank, so if dollar signs, things like that I think of, and I can pull all these elements, all these ingredients together, these correspondences. And then if I want to work with a specific element like fire, air, water, earth, if I'm thinking money, I might think of earth, planting seeds and then seeing the seeds sprout. So I might work something like that into what I'm going to do to manifest money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree too. um, Someone has a question while we continue to just type your question in the chat if you have. And then, do you specifically regularly use plants, herbs, or something like this in your construction of spell? Do you?
I like to burn incense, whenever I'm doing a spell, whether it's an actual candle magic or whether it's not specific candle magic, but say I'm going to construct a poppet, or I'm going to do a charm bag, or I'm going to make a spell jar.
Mm-mm.
I like to burn incense, and I burn the loose herbs on a charcoal disc. I
Yeah.
like the smell of it better, and then I can mix, the different correspondences. So, for money, I might use patchouli and some basil and some dragon's blood. I like adding dragon's blood to a lot because it, makes it. But looking at different things, and what I have on hand, to be honest, too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if I want a specific herb and I don't have it, I might look at what I have, because I just, sometimes you don't want to spend the money on another herb that you might use once.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Same here. I will go with what I have, and if I don't have the specific herb I had in mind, I will try to find another one, which is close to the first. And if I don't, then we go for something else, like
Right.
you do. And I do too, like to have um, burning incense, loose incense on a charcoal disc. The same, exactly the same. Almost each time I'm crafting.
Yeah. Something about
Almost
the smell of what it's, and the smoke. It just
the
makes
smoke.
it make me
Yeah,
feel, it helps me get into that other state of mind.
yeah.
I mean,
And
growing
as my
up, growing up in a Roman Catholic household, going to church, I mean, the Catholics use incense all the time, the smoky, it just is something that has been a part of my life for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I think there is this tradition here too. So burning incense is part of an habit almost. But when I do burn incense, I tend to use the smoke. I mean, I'm gathering the energy freed by the fact that herbs were just burnt. And I do gather the energy to add in whatever I am crafting at the moment. But I do gather, so there is a question of focusing
Hmm.
through the smell and the smoke, and which put me in a specific state of mind. But there is also a question of gathering more energy to to add into what I am doing.
Mm.
That's why I choose specific herbs and plants to burn, for them to go along with my intents and what I am doing.
And that's a little different than how I do it, because for me, I don't gather the energy of the herbs, but I use that as a baseline for me to match my own vibrational frequency. So for example, if I'm adding the patchouli and the basil and the dragon's blood and I'm burning that, then for me, it vibrates at a specific frequency. So then I can match my frequency, raise my frequency or lower my frequency to match that of the herbs. It's almost like tuning a piano. Those
Yeah.
herbs that are burning maybe at C, middle C, then I know I have to match my, vibration to middle
Hmm.
C. That's how I look at it. So we're doing
Hmm.
similar things, but the way that we're working with it, I find that to be really interesting.
It's, yeah, there is little difference because
Yeah.
I agree and I do too. I call how do you say, a tune?
Yeah. Yeah. A line, a tune. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. With the energy of what I want to do, and then with the herbs, with the incense, which helps to focus, which helps to enter a specific state of mind. So everything um, around this, I'm
Hmm.
doing the same as you do. But then it's like if when I attain the point that I am aligned with the piano key,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I will start to sing along with playing on the piano.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's the way I it's the way
Yeah.
I use.
Well, that makes sense. Now, let me ask you: when you're the herbs that you're burning, will you, if you're doing like a charm bag or a spell bottle, will you use those same herbs in whatever it is that you're crafting?
Frequently, yes,
Yeah,
but not always.
yeah.
Not always. Sometimes, let's say I keep separate. Maybe let's. I don't know if I will find any example useful, but if there is several intents to make clear into one spell, then I might separate those intents through the herbs I choose to burn, or to put inside, let's say, a charm bag or a spell bottle. If I want, I don't know, I don't have any example. Yeah, I don't have any example, but it might differ.
Okay.
Most of the time, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, I
But
think I
it might.
understand, because I think for me it's the same too. Usually I do use the same herbs. I may add some more.
Mhm.
I may minus, like I may put the dragon's blood in the incense, but not in the actual item that I'm crafting. Sometimes I may use different ones too. Like if I'm doing a tea, there is obviously some herbs you don't want to drink. You just want to burn,
Obviously.
right? So I wouldn't incorporate that. Or some I just don't like the taste of it, so I'll find something similar, but I like the smell of it, but I wouldn't want to drink it. So I may change that up too. But I totally understand what you're saying. We do have a question. We have a couple of questions. So Azrael Ruth asks, is intention without ritual action useless? Must one acquire specific resources, tools, or other common ritual tools, or is substitution acceptable? Or visualization, the ritual and the implements, visualization of the ritual and the implements. Okay, so I think what they're asking is, I think what they're saying is, if you have intention and you don't take action, is that useless? And do we need tools, correspondences, the physical, or can you just visualize all that? And I think you and I have discussed this before.
Yeah, in my belief, let's say, I don't think that most of the time visualization is enough. It's like, for me, wishful thinking. You can sit there and, oh, I hope I will have money. And it's just a wish. So yeah, I don't think this is enough. But let just to be clear, it's not the same thing as, let's say, a shamanic way of doing thing, which is more than this. It's about a journey in the spirit world and doing things here to enter a specific state of mind, and this is not wishful thinking. This is a true craft thing, working spell. But yeah, but there, in my belief, you will have to be in tune here in this physical realm and somewhere else, whatever you want to call it, to work your intention into what we call a spell. If you are just sitting there and thinking, I want something or I need something, you are just thinking. So in my eyes, this is not enough. And this is not a spell.
Yeah, and I'm going to only address the question in regards to witchcraft, because I can't speak for shamanic work. I can't
No,
speak
it's the
for
only
other
thing.
forms of spirituality and how they go about casting or working magic. We won't even talk about casting spells, but working magic. I can't talk
Me
on
neither.
their points. But witchcraft, because the way I view it is everything starts with a thought. So everything starts with a thought, the non-physical. You have an idea, you become emotionally attached to that idea, that your desire, whether it's something you want or something you don't want, there's an emotion, a strong emotion attached to that intention. Now, in order for that to manifest in physical realm, then you need to bring that intention into the physical realm. If that intention is never brought into physicality, then it will never manifest in physicality. It will only stay in the astral realm. As above, so below. But you need to do something. You need to exert some sort of effort or work in order for it to manifest. Now, it can be a simple thing as speaking the word of what you're thinking. That can manifest it, because now that makes sound. And sound is something that can be experienced in the physical realm. So if all you're doing, if you're saying it, then that is a physical action. But if you can't speak, maybe you are unable to speak, then even just gestures, whatever, like Doctor Strange, that manifest it in the physical realm, because that's a gesture. That's something you're bringing. If you're writing it. So for me, I believe that when we're talking spellcraft and casting within witchcraft, some sort of work and effort needs to be exerted in the physical realm in order for that intention, fueled with desire, propelled forward with your energy, to manifest in the physical. So you don't need tools or correspondences. I think those are things that are helpful, and it will better align your intention to be more specific. It will enable you to raise your vibration to meet that intention. These are all helps. They're all aids. They're all supports to make it the chances of your intention to manifest.
I agree. And yeah, I don't want to speak for either for some practice that I do not practice. But that was the only thing I could think about at the moment, which maybe doesn't involve correspondences or something else. Because I do personally think that yes, this is true that sometimes when we are particularly well aligned with our intents and thoughts, and when we are focused enough, we can go without anything and cast a spell just by speaking to the wind. But in I think that most of the time, none of us is able to do that all the time. I don't think so. I don't think we are evolved enough.
Right.
Sometimes we can, but most of the time, I personally, which is only my view of things, I think most of the time we need to have a little bit of correspondences through herbs or anything to help gather and raise our energy to attain this goal. Yeah, and yeah, sometimes we can. Sometimes it
I think,
happens.
but
We
I
can
also
cast it
think,
just like that.
but I think, like, even if we think about the law of attraction, and not just the simple secret law of attraction, but the more in depth, the more practice of law of attraction, the deeper stuff, not just the secret, but the actual work. Even if you just work with that new age idea, which isn't that new of an idea, they still encourage you to create vision boards. And they encourage you to create the vision boards, because as you're putting the things on the board, you're casting a
Gathering.
spell. You're
Yeah.
casting a spell. You're looking for these correspondences that relate to your desired manifestation. So even in,
And you actually create. This is
yes, you're
crafting.
doing something. Yes, yes.
It's
And
crafting.
ritual, I don't believe that ritual is required for spell casting.
No.
Coming from a Wiccan tradition, a non-traditional Wiccan foundation in my past, ritual played a big part. But nowadays, ritual doesn't play as big of a role in my witchcraft as it used to. So I don't think rituals are necessary. But Shadow Sun wants to know if either of us use divination in any part of our spell constructing process.
It happens, yes. It happens. It depends on how I do feel. For an example, and to make a link with what CricketSong said in the beginning of of the show, right now, I might use divination to gather advice on how to react and what to do. it I might, but it's not an habit. Sometimes I do.
Yeah, I
Sometimes.
think for me, I think it depends on what type of spell I'm going to be doing. Like, I think there are definitely some spells, especially if I'm going to do spells on behalf of someone else. if I'm going to cast a spell for someone that asked me to cast a spell for them, or if I'm helping them with something, then I will pull cards or scry or however, whatever, use my crystal ball, cast the stones, the witch's runes, whatever it is I'm working with at the time. I will, because it'll help me figure out, because I'm not the one that it's not for me specifically that I'm casting the spell for. So I will. But sometimes if it's something that I'm doing that I know really needs to be done, then I won't. So it depends.
Yeah.
Someone else, Justin, wants to know, how do you feel about beeswax candles in a ritual versus candles you can get at Walmart? Which one do you feel is better to use?
Well, which one do you feel is better to you? As usual, it depends on each of us. I would like to have bee candles because of the notion of being closer to nature. Because of this, I would prefer, but this is not. I don't have to personally, and I will go very well with a Walmart candle. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I
But
think if you're looking at the candle, the correspondences with the bee, depending on what you're doing, I think it can add a benefit. You have like that energy of the
that's true.
bees in the candle. So I think that would add something to it. I don't think it's necessary. And for me right now, I have a lot of just general paraffin candles sitting in my drawer. So I'm going to use them because that's what's available to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the questions so far. Okay, so where were we? So we have the idea of our intention, and we then decide what actions and what correspondences we're going to use. Then what's the next thing that you do?
I will usually write an incantation. So this requires me to think of it, to be clear with my intent and what I do want to accomplish. And then I will put that in words, choosing the one that appears to me right. And I will try by any way to put that in rhymes because I like to have my incantation in rhymes. That would be the next step, not the last, but the next. And you?
Sometimes I write the incantation first. Other
And then
times,
sometimes you just chant over the candle with what words come
right.
into your mind, and I do the same. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I also write the incantation that tells me what I'm going to do in the spell. So, for example, there was a spell that I wrote that I would be using my cauldron, and I would be having a little fire in the cauldron. I
Mm-hmm.
put little sticks and I was burning that in the cauldron.
Yeah,
And then
but I see.
part of the spell was to add herbs into that burning fire.
Mm-hmm.
So the incantation went something like a pinch of patchouli for growth, a pinch of, I don't know, something
I
rhymes
did
with
that.
growth.
Yeah,
Um,
I did that.
the actual incantation was directions on what I was doing and my intention. And then it was like, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn, or whatever.
Yeah,
But it was part of the actual what I'd be doing.
I did that too, and I do
Yeah.
that too sometimes. Yeah, yeah, that's funny. I do that too sometimes, just to be really focused
Right,
onto what
right.
I am doing and like trying to reach the purest thought and intent and energy of what I want to accomplish. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
that. So I
Yeah,
do that too.
I'm checking to see if I can actually find that spell. Oh man, no. I'm looking at my list of spells. Yeah, no, forget that. Because I have so many, forget it. I don't even
Too
remember what
long.
the
Yeah.
intention is to look for it. But I liked writing it because it made me think of correspondences. It made me think that whole process for that particular one. I was so focused on constructing it and writing for it and then casting it. For me, it was one of the more powerful ones and the ones that manifested quicker because
Mhm.
I was so involved in it, you know?
Yeah. Usually, I do not cast very often, which can sound maybe surprising for some of you, but I don't cast very often. But when I do, I will try to be as focused as I can because I feel if I cannot reach this state of focusing and raise my energy, I'm wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
I won't cast if I feel too sick, too distract, too if I don't really think that I need it, or if I don't really think that I can do it, if I'm in a at a point or in a state of mind where I doubt myself because everyone go through this moment, I won't cast. So usually when I cast, it's because I am focused.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
any type of spell do what they have to do because I am focused at the moment. If I am not, I don't cast anything.
So, as a rule, Ruth says, will you work with spells, traditions, or deity from paths you do not follow? I have yet to discern my one path and tend to irreverently utilize any religion or cultural prayer, spell, tradition, or deity.
I'm
So
not
I think
sure
what
I
they're
get
asking
that.
is
Yeah.
they have not picked a specific path. They're not working with a specific pantheon. They're not working with specific deities. So what they tend to do is they choose and, just use whatever tradition and whatever deity that they feel they can because they have not picked one specific pantheon or they don't have a matron or patron.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? I think is what they're asking.
Oh, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do work with specific deities, but I can work with entities or, great ancestors or spiritualize, or it depends. It depends. Usually, I work with all of this all together. So, about spirits or entities help, most of the time it's always the same bunch of entities I rely on. About using other spells tradition, yeah, but I'm eclectic, so yeah, I do that too, but this have to speak to me. This is something I research, and if it makes sense for me, then I incorporate that into my craft. I mean, this have for me to have meaning, to have a sense, to talk to me, to resonate with me. If it didn't, if it doesn't, I don't use it. So I don't know how to answer this part of the question.
Yeah,
I
no, I
don't.
think you did. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you answered it. Yeah, and I don't work with any particular god or goddesses. So right now I'm just working with the primordial forces of the divine masculine and the divine feminine and the spirits of the land that I'm living on right now, the ancestors, my beloved dead, and the mighty ones. So I'm using the spirit realm in general and no specific deity. and the land energy and the elements that I'm working, that surround me. That's what I'm using. So I don't work with any specific deity right now. And when it comes to witchcraft, I don't use any specific tradition. I'm very, non-traditional and eclectic.
Yeah.
So like spell bags and witches bottles and just candle magic and those kind of teas and potions and those kind of things are what I work with. I don't really do hoodoo or voodoo or anything of that sort. So I don't think I'm using any specific traditions. I just kind of go with the flow, I guess, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I understand pretty well. I do use sometimes part of something which may be considered as coming from a different or specific tradition, but it might be, but I'm not sure it is actually part of really something from coming from a specific path different than mine, because yeah, I'm eclectic, and this kind of thing are used everywhere in the world. So I think it's more of a human crafting tradition, a wide range of things, but not a really specific tradition.
Right.
No,
Ink
I'm not.
Princess said that her bunny passed away today. Can we
Oh,
suggest
sorry.
any rituals for her to send her off in a more peaceful way, or to help her with some sort of closure with her spirit, or just some sort of healing spells that she might be able to do for herself?
Well, first, I'm sorry for you. I'm really sorry. I know it hurts to lose a friend, or even if it's an animal. For me, it's the same. So I'm really sorry. What can I advise? Well, I can tell what I do, but this won't. This might not speak to you. So, well, when someone passed away, usually I go for kind of what we do traditionally. No, what can be done traditionally for Samhain. I will light a candle to guide the soul through the veil for it to reach the point he wants to reach. And I will leave offerings, and I will call upon my spirits allies, entities allies, and so on, to help this specific soul to be at peace and to reach whatever other spirit realm he or she wants to reach, and let that into their hand.
Yeah, I do a similar thing too. Relighting a candle with the intention to help guide that spirit to the next realm.
Mhm,
Yeah, and calling on the allies, beloved dead, whoever.
mhm, mhm,
For all my uh, pets, we buried them. We actually did a burial, and we did like a graveside sort of
mhm,
ritualistic thing.
mhm.
Yeah. And be kind to yourself. Give yourself time to grieve too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah. The full moon. Yeah, I have it. It's full at 9 something. Oh, it's coming up for me. It's going to be full at 9:39 for me. So I have like, 20 something minutes and then she'll be full. How is it treating me? I don't know. Like we said at the beginning of this show, I don't know if Mercury is in retrograde right now, apparently. So I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
energy of the moon, if it's this Mercury retrograde thing, but Man, oh man, oh man.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's difficult. But then it's always kind of hectic in full moon for me at full moon time, almost always. So, but right now is particular. It's particular. It's very tensed. Let's say it's tensed.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Ink Princess wants to know what's your zodiac sign.
Me, I'm Libra.
And I'm an Aquarius. Yay. Um, so we have about what 14 minutes. So
Mhm.
what would you do next? What would you be your next step in constructing your spell before casting?
So after gathering elements and writing, if I do have to writing an incantation,
Mm-hmm.
I will usually go over every part that I choose to do to be sure. I rewrite
Mm-hmm.
and I think of it to see if I'm really attuned with what I choose, if my intent is clear enough. I will rethink every part because better now than after if it fails. You see, I prefer do that previous to cast if I have time again, because it's always a big, question of time too. So I will rethink and maybe change some little thing if suddenly I realize that no, this one isn't totally, this part, let's say this herb isn't totally right for what I had in mind. I must have chosen, and then I will do little changes. But when I'm sure of it, then I will, if I have time, plan a day, maybe an hour, maybe just I will, choose
Planetary hours.
I, yeah, yeah. Usually I use planetary magic, so this is common for me. But a specific phase of the moon, yeah. I'm so tired. Sorry, it's difficult for me today to find my words. A specific phase of the moon, and so on. And when everything is planned, then all right, and we go for it and
Yeah,
cast.
I go over it too. Usually I have it written out, the steps that I'm
Yeah,
going to do and the things I'm going to use. And I kind of like sit there and kind of visualize it in my head.
yeah,
Okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to stand like this, or I'm going to use this hand gesture and I'm going to say this. And if I play music, I'm going to play it here. And am I going to, I get down to even things like, am I going to use a lighter or am I going to use matches?
mm-hmm.
How am I going to do this? Am I okay with using a lighter? Because sometimes it's okay with me and sometimes it's not.
It's not.
So I go
Agree.
through all of that, tweak it if necessary. And I really consider if I'm 100% behind this, because sometimes just planning it out and writing it out is enough for me. And I don't have to actually cast it sometimes, because
Mm.
while I'm doing all that, sometimes my intention will manifest even before I cast it,
Yeah,
so
it
that I'm like,
happens to
oh,
me too.
all right, I guess we're good. I need to do this now, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
it
yeah.
happens. It happened to me too. But usually when I do plan something like this, there is not much time between the moment I plan and the moment I cast. It could be very quick most of the time. I do not plan, 1 month or more in advance. Usually it's shorter than this. So
Mhm.
I'm planning it for maybe, let's say, the next week. And then
Right.
So it's kind of short. So I don't let time.
And
I
we're
don't let
not going to
time pass.
talk about it tonight, but sometimes all this planning, all this casting, you're convinced, you're convinced that the spell is manifesting. And
Mhm.
you're like, yeah, we got this.
Yeah, obviously.
And you don't. And you're like, what the fuck happened? What the fuck? But we're not going to talk about that tonight.
No,
We
but
will
this could be.
definitely talk
Yeah.
about that in the future. Because let me tell you, like, you're convinced. Other witches that you know are convinced who worked with you.
Mm.
And other people are convinced that, yeah, this spell manifested for sure. I had a sign that it
Yeah.
manifested. And yes, don't you worry. And then you're like,
And
what the
that,
fuck?
yeah, and that's not pleasant. That's
No,
not
it's
pleasant.
not. Because then we'll talk about what kind of things, not just why the spell didn't manifest, but all the things that then happened to you as a witch because of that and
Hmm.
your feelings and thoughts. But we are definitely going to cover that in another show because
Yeah.
I think that's stuff that we don't hear talked about very much. And
No,
I think
and
that would be a good topic to discuss.
absolutely. And there is a lot of thing to discuss about this because there is a lot of thing that can happen.
Right.
So it's a long and difficult process to try to understand what went wrong, if we may say. So
Right.
yeah, this needs to be in a specific show.
Right. Now we have about 7 minutes. I want to ask you, when you're constructing a spell, I know you're basically solitary,
Yeah,
but if you were to work with another witch, or when you're working with your husband, because you did talk about sometimes casting with him,
yeah.
is the way that you construct your spell any different when it's just you? Or when it's you and you're working with someone else? Do you go about it in a different way, or do you still do the same sort of process?
The only difference would be that if we do construct, let's say I will cast with my husband, if we do plan to do that, the only difference is I will either review with him every part of it to be sure that he is aligned with what I've planned to use and what I've choose to use and everything, herbs and so on, to see if he is aligned. Because if there is something that doesn't make sense for him, then maybe we will have to put that away or to replace it with something else, or to add, sorry, there is no H, to
Mhm.
add to add another elements for for him to focus on while I do use the first one. And so I will review that with him or write the whole thing with him for us to be totally aligned with what we're gonna do. And if it's just I mean, it's not less important, but it's a different state of mind. If I do a work in my own corner to help and to add energy and intense and magical thingy for someone else, with someone else. So if I can, which is difficult because of the time difference, if I can help by doing something at the same hour than another um, witch friend, I will do that. But usually I will go, if I just help in my little corner, I will go with whatever makes sense for me. I will craft my own spell with the intent of adding and helping and supporting what is done somewhere else. I, I hope I did success to answer because
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me, and I agree. When I did have the coven, and we I would write spells for coven workings. Um, I would write the spell, do all the constructing, and then present the spell and talk the coven as to, okay, we're going to do a spell for this. We're going to use these correspondences. We're going to do it in this way to get everybody's input. Because, like you said, if everybody isn't aligned with what's being done, and a correspondence doesn't make sense to them, it might be more difficult for them to really resonate with what's going on and really align their own vibrations to the spell intention. And that could sometimes, hinder what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
why it's better to review or go to write, prepare the spell altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to be involved and to feel involved and to feel alive. If not, there is a risk that the work will fail in the end.
Right. Now, there is a way, and I don't know how many people work in groups, but if you are in a coven setting, instead, if it comes down to one person in the group is going to actually do the spell casting, and the other people are not, maybe it's not for the other members' benefit. Maybe this particular person, okay, so actually I'm just going to give you an example because I feel like it's better. So say there is a coven of 5, and one of the individuals, say there's no like high priestess, they're just 5 witches that happen to come together and practice their magic, and they come together frequently, and they've created this group mind because they're always coming together and working together. But perhaps one of them is trying to have a baby, and she's having difficulty getting pregnant, and she wants to do a spell for fertility. But all the other members in the group don't want to have anything to do with fertility. They don't want kids. What they can do, they can still support her by focusing their energy and their magic on her. So
Yeah,
they're siphoning or
feeding.
fueling, yes, they're feeding her while she goes through the motions and actually casts the spell. So all their intention and their thought process is I'm giving her energy, I'm feeding her energy, let her will manifest. So that they're not actually casting the spell for themselves, or they're not even casting for her. They're just feeding her energy to boost her spell out towards intention. So that's a success. You can do that successfully too.
Yeah.
We've done that before, when I was in the group.
As a
But that
matter of
works too.
fact, yeah, that works because my husband did that and it worked. It manifested. So he did that a couple of times,
See?
just fueling energy. Yeah, I didn't think of it, but that was a very useful add to the conversation. You did well.
It
I didn't
is.
think of it. I didn't think of it.
It just came to me while we're having a conversation. Half of this stuff we don't script our talks. Let me tell you,
No, never,
we have an
never.
idea of what we're going to talk about, and we just go with it.
With the flow, yeah, and I can assure you that I 5:30 in the morning, I don't script anything. Anything.
So we've come to our hour. This is the time we are up. It's 9:29 over here on the west coast of the United States. And I want to thank everybody in chat for asking your very wonderful questions. Very thought-provoking. Thank you so much. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, Weird Witches Witchcraft, I encourage you to go over there. It's a closed group. It's private, but you can certainly request to join. We have a nice group of individuals over there. We're having some wonderful conversations and a lot of sharing. The group's getting active, and I'm getting really excited about it. So we're doing all fun stuff over there, learning from each other, sharing from each other, and I encourage you to join in over there. If you're interested in more content from me, you can go over and check out Lunar Wisdom's Patreon page. I have a couple of series over there, video series, The Quest Within and Becoming Witch. There's also weekly blog posts. There is going to be monthly readings of the month's energy starting next month, and more exciting stuff to come. So you should go check that out over there. And next week, next Friday, we are going to have a guest. We are going to be talking about baneful magic. And we're going to be talking with Benabel Wen. Her information is in her link to her channel is in the information section of the event that I created. I shared it on my CricketSong Facebook page. So if you're unfamiliar with Benabel, you should go check her out. She has wonderful information. And I'm really excited that Obsidian and I are going to be talking with her next week. So tune in next week at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. And that's it. I think that's it. Yeah. What do you got to say there, Obsidian?
Well, c'est fini pour aujourd'hui. Désolée d'avoir probablement été un petit peu dans la lune. C'est le cas de le dire, à la pleine lune. J'espère quand même que vous avez passé un bon moment. N'hésitez pas à laisser des commentaires sous la vidéo si vous regardez ça après, pas en direct. Et bien sûr, merci de nous avoir suivis et j'espère à la prochaine fois. Bye bye!
I love French. It sounds so beautiful.
Thank you.
So we'll see you next week. And as always, I love you. Blessed be. Bye.